not locked in here with you. That's it! You're locked in here with me!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California. Member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Welcome back, folks. We are back in the saddle once again. It's been a little while since last we talked, which has been a more frequent occurrence. I'm not going to make any promises one way or the other. The best laid plans. Interesting stuff to talk about. And, there are a few things I'm going to tease. It has been a freakishly amazing last couple of weeks. For those of you who have been following me on Instagram, and I strongly suggest you do, there's going to be more stuff happening on Instagram. I took everybody on a extended home open house marathon. Not just last weekend, but the weekend before that. Looked at over 16 homes. I think when everything was said and done, I looked at a total of 18 properties and kind of gave little nuggets of what I'd been thinking and insights that occurred to me as I was actually going through the process. So I think that's really cool stuff. Go check it out. If you just go onto Instagram and search for Rebel Broker, you're gonna find me. And out of that came 3 properties I wanted to make an offer on. So I did. I made offers on 3 different properties. Still waiting to hear back. I didn't make offers on those properties. I tracked them and I reached out to agents involved and simply told them what was up and to let me know if another offer comes in. But I wanted to wait to give them an offer until my property was actually on the market because I wanted to make it contingent on the sale of my property. So that's where we ended up. And right now I'm waiting on responses from those. I did have to write those with a little special attention so that I didn't potentially get myself stuck in multiple contracts at one time. That used to be a lot easier in California. We used to have literally a checkbox that we could do that would facilitate that. Now that's back in the day when buyers were making offers on tons and tons of houses, and now we're kind of getting back there. My ground truth of what I'm seeing now that I've completely put myself, and I've always been up to date on what's available in the marketplace. But when I actually get it settled down and start putting my personal filter on it, I'm stunned at the number of homes currently available that fit my needs, that have been on the market for a super long time or have had price reductions. And I'm talking about in markets that are even more robust than Morgan Hill, which is where I like to focus my attention. So that's an interesting bit of real life observation. But in addition to that, I don't like to get into the details of things until escrows close. I'm maybe a little bit superstitious that way, but I've got a great story to share. Maybe I could almost share it without getting too jinxy about it. But it really emphasizes when you don't do things the way most agents do them, how you accomplish great things. And make things happen where they wouldn't have happened before. So I don't think I'll do that today. We've got other interesting things to talk about today. Maybe the next show. And I'm not sure what we would title that one. Would it be, I don't know. What would I title that one? The Power of the Better Agent, I guess. When you don't just do things the way other agents do them. Again, I don't want to waste too much time on that. We'll get into it in a future show, which may come sooner than you think. But today I want to talk about 2 things, interesting market-related things. Now, the association of, or is this from them? I'm not sure it is. Veros Real Estate Solutions, a risk management and predictive analytics firm, is projecting how much property is going to go up in different areas in terms of value. And not to pat myself on the back too much, but I have kind of hit the nail on the head. I was giving advice a few shows back. It's actually, I think I've been doing this almost for a year now. I started talking about this area back, oh God, it was probably more than a year ago. And sure enough, this state dominates the top 10 when we're talking about the 10 markets expected to appreciate the most over the next year. So we'll take a look at this and see where you should be focusing your interest. Now, let me preface this with, I'm not, we're going to talk about these areas. We're going to talk about how much of an advantage it might be to be in these areas. What I'm hoping for is that these locations inspire you to take a little time out and use some of the skills we've talked about to practice evaluating properties to determine if they make sense as an investment. I think a lot of what needs to be overcome on the part of a lot of folks is simply moving through the process, getting comfortable and familiar with what it takes to evaluate a property. And you could even go to the point where you evaluate a property, you think you've made the exact right decision, and then make a note of that and see if you can't connect with a real estate agent in the area and see if your expectations have been correct. If you feel like you really need to do that. Now, that'll delay you. I mean, obviously, some amount of time has to pass before you can retrospectively look back and see if your calls were correct or if your data was good or the way you dealt with the data was good. But I really want for you to get over that. I think that's one of those things. We've talked about what blocks people from jumping in and taking those risks. And, really the first thing is simply the willingness to take a risk. That is at its core what stops people. The rest of it is excuses, right? Oh, well, I don't have good numbers on this, or maybe I don't have a good number on that, or whatever the excuse might be. It's really a fear of taking the risks, right? There's so many easy, not stressful ways to get through life if you want to go to that 9 to 5 every day. But the way to get independent is to be willing to take on scary things. And that's really what separates most successful investors from everybody else. It is not, because trust me, I am in the unique position to have met an awful lot of people who have made an awful lot of money in real estate. Are there some guys out there and some gals out there that are just ridiculously smart? Yeah, there are. But that's not the deciding factor. The deciding factor is the willingness to take the risk. And I have met some absolute idiots who have succeeded in real estate as investors simply because they were willing to take the risk. And maybe the advantage for them was they were just simply too dumb to really grok how much of a risk they were taking. I would say that that's a distinct possibility. Now, the other tidbit of news I wanted to hit today is, where did it go? U.S. rents. We've talked a little bit, I think the last time we did a show, we talked a little bit about why I didn't think we were going to see dramatic drops in values, and that actually in most markets, we're probably going to see flattening. It may go down to single-digit appreciation or maybe single-digit reductions in home values in some markets. That's what some folks are predicting for places like Gilroy, for instance. But I think by and large, whatever slowdown is about to come, simply because there hasn't been dramatic growth in the number of homes on the market through construction, I just don't think we're going to see what we saw last time. And the bottom line there is the supply and demand equation, and we have not boosted the supply like we did before. If you ever get a chance, go Google the graph on new home construction over the years, and it is ridiculous. We never even, after the downturn where it peaked at, say, 2006, 2007, we never even came close to the levels that they were at the year 2000 in terms of new construction. So I think that should be a pretty profound piece of information to give you an idea of what's happening with inventory. Now, the reason I mention that is this feeds two beasts. It feeds the high rent beast and it feeds the high cost of housing beast. And in this case, I think sort of preserves the values that we're seeing in properties right now. So I still think that in the long term, real estate is a pretty fabulous investment. According to the folks at Realty Biz, I think that's where this article came from. U.S. rent values continued their growth streak, accelerating for the 9th straight month, according to Zillow's. They're basing this on the Zillow report, which I also read. Let me give you some of the numbers here. The median U.S. rent rose 3% on an annual basis to $1,483, with Las Vegas up 10%, Phoenix up 8.4% and Orlando up 7.4%, seeing the largest over-year growth. Rents are up year over year in 49 of the nation's top 50 markets, with Milwaukee as the only exception. Nationally, rent growth has not been this strong since 2016, when pressure in the rental market spurred record numbers of multifamily permits. Now, here's the other part of this that is, I think, interesting to the equation. If you are a landlord and you're thinking, well, maybe things are going to peak out here on rents, remember that this is also mixed in with folks who are living in apartments and in duplexes and fourplexes and quads. And those will always be less desirable than those of you who are landlords of single-family residential homes. These other places are residences of last resort, right? If you're going to call what would be the least desirable, would probably be an apartment studio, right? That would be the if someone lives in one of those, odds are if they could get a deal or started to make more money and we're looking to make a change, the first thing they'd want to change is that situation. Let's see. The typical U.S. home is worth $227,700, up slightly from May after month-over-month values dropped for the first time in 7 years this spring. That's a stronger confirmation that housing markets are stabilizing as opposed to on the brink of an imminent downturn. So it's one of those few times I actually agree with a lot of these guys. Annually, home values grew 5.2%, down from 7.6% a year earlier. Salt Lake City up 9.3% from June 2018. Indianapolis 8.8%, and Charlotte 7.7%. So the strongest annual value growth. West Coast markets flatlined, with Los Angeles up 0.9, Seattle up 0.4, San Francisco up 0, seeing minimal to no home value growth compared to last year. San Jose, which is just north of me, which is also a market I have been shopping in, which last year saw a nation-leading annual growth rate of 23.4%, as the only market to see annual home values fall by 8.2%. And these are some of the first articles I'm seeing bringing up what I'm seeing in the reality mode of properties that I'm viewing. According to what agents are telling me, there are multiple offers on a couple of the houses that I'm looking at. I find that hard to believe. Why? Because some of these homes have been on the market for a very, very long time. But then again, I haven't heard back on any of them yet. So who knows? Maybe I'll never hear back because there were other offers that were so good. One person even told me there was an all cash offer on one of these homes, and that may be true. But we'll have to see how that goes. But I am absolutely seeing lots and lots of price drops, huge price drops in the over 1 million category, and usually anywhere from 20 to 40,000. And it's less about the amount that's being dropped, and it's more about finding the new price bracket. Remember, we've talked about price bracketing before. Homes that have been priced over $1 million are now getting to that $999,000 mark. Homes that were priced over $900 could have been $940, could have been $960. Now they're getting priced at $899. One of the homes I looked at last weekend is exactly one of those homes. It was priced at $960, and they dropped it down to $899. So that was a pretty dramatic drop. And even at that, in my opinion, that property was still overpriced, so I did not offer full asking price. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is more interest out there than I'm guessing. But at the rate I'm finding properties that will work for me, like I said, I looked at 18 properties last weekend. Not this last weekend, the weekend before. I looked at 4 more properties over this last weekend, and I have 6 more properties that I'm going to be looking at all through this week. So, and I don't feel stressed to get in there and see them. I mean, that, at least for my southern Silicon Valley market, and for San Jose, and for parts of the Silicon Valley area that are right there, that are right near where Google, for instance, is going to be building a new campus, we are seeing drops in prices. So I think that's important to note. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to go ahead and reveal those top markets expected to appreciate over most of the next year. And, not going to pat myself on the back, well, maybe a little. I called it, and I think this reinforces how much interest you should be showing in this part of the country. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right. Aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Welcome back, everyone. I do have to update that ad. That ad's been there forever. It sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. I'm so wonderful. You should all be calling me. All right, so here we go. The 10 markets expected to appreciate the most over the next year. I love these lists. I love getting them from a lot of different sources, because one of the cool things is then looking at them and saying, where's crossover with other lists? We cover almost everybody's list that does this, and I love the crossovers. So we may end up doing a show just devoted to the crossovers. Now, there's gonna be some old favorites on here. I'm gonna not to do a spoiler alert, but there is not a single California community on this top 10 list. Not one. And one state dominates this list. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the top 10 are from this state and this other state. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, okay, there's 4 from that state too. So I don't know. Maybe we need to look at both of those. But in terms of the top 5, this state dominates 3 of those, and then there's only one other state that takes the other 2 spots. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm not going to do the whole. Yeah, let's do the countdown. We'll count down from number 10. Number 10 on the list, Yakima, Washington, with an expectation of 7.2% in terms of housing markets with the greatest appreciation. Now, to sort of give us a real quick calibration to Yakima. I tell you, I do like the Trulia community info, and I often will use this as sort of a starting point for figuring out what makes sense. Now, the median sales price right now in Yakima is about $274,000. That is not a big, obstacle, barrier to entry. Right now, a one bedroom will cost you about $89,000. I would not buy an $89,000. And what's interesting is the one bedroom homes are down 35.6% year over year. So in terms of a deal, they may be the best deal in town, the one bedrooms. They're at $89,872 now. 3 months ago, they were less. They were at 54. 1 year ago, they were at $139,608, and 5 years ago, they were at $67,000. So last year, it was what we were seeing last year. You remember the craziness that we were seeing last year? That's just, I think, a reflection of that. The 2 bedrooms are currently on average $215,000, up 33.7% year over year. I wouldn't do a 2 bedroom for 2 reasons. One, it's a 2 bedroom, and 2, it's seen the largest amount of growth, which kind of indicates a stress, right? People typically settle for a 2 bedroom. They'd prefer a 3 bedroom. So when you see a dramatic increase in that segment of the market, that should tell you something else is going on. That there's perhaps price stresses at different points in the market that are making people make that 2 bedroom choice. 3 bedrooms. Now, this is right. This is our sweet spot, right? And what's great is, aside from 1 bedrooms, this saw the least amount of increase year over year in terms of average price. The average price for a 3 bedroom is $279,950. 3 months ago, it was $262,000. 1 year ago, it was $248,000, and 5 years ago, it was $174,000. Rent for your typical 3 bedroom, and I love this. You can just check a checkbox and see what the median rent is for a 3 bedroom. The median rent right now is $1,497, and the rent on all properties averaged out is $1,350. In terms of the number of rentals, we're seeing a pretty good increase in the overall numbers right now, but we're not seeing a rate of increase in 3 bedrooms that kind of reflects that. If we look at 1 bedrooms, wow, okay, that's not even showing up any numbers at all. 2 bedrooms are flat. They're not adding 2 bedrooms at all. 3 bedrooms, a little bit of an increase. 4 bedrooms is also flat. So the largest number that's been added is 3. That statistically makes sense, right? Because 3 bedrooms are the bread and butter. Those are the places I like you to go, because that's where people tend to want to be for the longest period of time. All right. Well, I really blew a lot of time on Yakima. I don't know if I should have done that. Maybe I'll be a little brief on the next ones. Maybe we'll make the top 2 or 3 bigger numbers. Pocatello, Idaho, 7.2% projected increase in property values. We'll just skip right over Pocatello. Number 8, Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, Washington, 7.2%. So that's 3 areas that all tied each other to round out the bottom of the top 10 list. Number 7, Spokane, Washington, 7.4%. Bellingham, Washington, 7.8%. So look, lots of Washington, right? We've just talked about 3 different Washington communities. Next, number 5, at the hump of the top 10 list, Midland, Texas at 8%. We won't do that one either. Maybe we'll do the top 3. Number 4 on our list, Boise City, Nampa, Idaho, 9.1%. This is the city that I was telling you about. I was specifically talking about Idaho and different areas in Idaho. I talked about Coeur d'Alene. I talked about Boise City. I talked about Idaho Falls. Talked about a lot of different places in Idaho that I thought were worth your effort. So here we are at number 4, Boise City, Nampa, Idaho, at 9.1%. What's next? Number 3, Idaho Falls, Idaho, 9.4%. What's next? Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 9.5%. And number 1 on our list is Odessa, Texas, with 9.7%. So let's go ahead and take a second and look a little deeper into these. Let's talk about these top 3. So we'll go back down to Idaho Falls and see what the markets are doing there. Now, sadly, apparently, this is one of those markets where they don't give you sold data. In other words, we don't understand what homes have sold for, but we do see what homes are listed for. Right now, there's the average listing price is $204,985. The homes for sale in Idaho Falls is $319, and the median rent for the month is $1,199. So yeah, it's a bummer that we can't tease a little bit more out of there. But if we do look at the market trends, the rent is super interesting. This is one where it might be worth your trouble to get a 4-bedroom. As I see them plotting out median rents, I'm seeing that 3 bedrooms are actually below the average for all properties, only by $99. 3 bedrooms are $1,100, and the average for all other properties is $1,199. But I think that if we go ahead and look at the 4 bedrooms, it becomes more worth it. The 4 bedrooms suddenly jump to $1,372. That's a pretty big statistical jump over the history of these numbers going back to August 18th of 2018. It's pretty consistently above the average. There was one weird period of time in November, December of 2018 where that wasn't true by like a buck or two. But what's also interesting is the number of rentals is flat or declining or remaining relatively flat, where 4 bedrooms only make up 16 out of the total 133 that are out there. So there's clearly a demand for 4 bedrooms that's making them more desirable to the point where they're getting a pretty good premium on those. So those are items you might want to keep in mind for that particular market. Now let's go ahead and move on to Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene figured prominently early in my discussions about Idaho last year, prior to me going out there, simply because I had several clients who were selling homes here that ended up moving to Coeur d'Alene. So let's take a quick look. Now, if you'll remember, we have a projected 9.5% increase in values there over the next year. So let's see what things are going for right now. Now, sadly, they don't have any data on Trulia.com for Coeur d'Alene, so it's going to be more about looking specifically for the homes that are currently on the market. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a look and see. I do not know the super sexy places, but I know Coeur d'Alene is supposed to be all about the Harrison Slough and living right there on the water and all those other exciting, wonderful things. So if you just zoom in into the areas that are much more about that, if you're actually in the city, what I'm seeing here is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,846 square feet, 409,000. Let me zoom in a little more here so it's much more focused on that part of town. So I'm looking in the little wedge. I'm looking in the southeast wedge that's formed by the 95 and the 90, just on the north shore of the slough. So I guess this would be downtown. This is much more grid setup than other places, and I'm seeing stuff. I'm seeing $595,000 for a 3-bed. I'm seeing a $258,000 2-bed. I'm seeing a 3-bed for $595,000. I'm seeing a 3-bed for $259,000. That's a little further on the north end. Let me zoom in one more time and just see what this stuff is going for. I'm guessing these would be the sexiest. And you know what? Let's also make it 3 beds. I see stuff that would probably be good, recent, relatively good rentals if you just wanted to focus on downtown. I'm seeing 3 bedrooms for, you know what? Let's overlay crime, and I'll even avoid super crazy crime areas. All right, I see 275. I see 349. I see 8 million. There you go. I see 290. I see 328. 320. This one's no crime area, but that is a really crappy looking house. 325 for that one. Lots of $1 million homes. This is really an interesting. I love when I can be zoomed in a marketplace and see multi-million-dollar homes, and literally 10 blocks away, I see something for 455 or 449 or 340. So I think there's opportunities here. You know, you'd need to look a little bit more into what these things rent for. But I think given the percentage expectation of growth, this would be a market worth learning about. All right, next, let's talk about number 1 on our list, Odessa, Texas. All right, now, this is another one of those states where they do not give you sold home data. So all we get is list price data. So the average list price is $253,361. There's a total of 421 homes for sale, and the median rent per month is $2,300. Now, that right out of the chute should make you step back a little bit. Remember, we were talking about other markets where things are pretty good, where the average listing price was only a little bit more than $250,000, but those were markets where the average rent was $1,200, $1,300, right? So the fact that you could have a median rent of $2,300 in Odessa, Texas, where you pay on average $253,000 is just freaking amazing. They do have, let's see here, market trends in Odessa, 1% week over week rise in average list price, with a 2% drop in median rent per month. So that's a month to month thing, which is usually not horribly useful. In terms of looking at their trends on rent, this is kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting slope here. It's really peaked in April and May of 2019 at 2,500, dropped back down to 2,300, but just as recently, and that's not a huge, I guess that's a $500 a month swing from September and October of 2000 coming to the peak of what it was in April and May of this year. What's interesting though is that since February of 2019, the number of rentals has jumped from 84 to 125. So that's a pretty good sweep. It dipped a little bit and then came back up for July. Let's see here. If we look at 3 bedrooms, again, that's the sweet spot. Let's see if that truly is the sweet spot. The median rent dropped to $2,100 for 3 bedrooms with an average of 23. But that's one of those ones where those two lines are crossing each other, which indicates kind of a maybe too small of a sample size to me. When I see stuff like that, that may mean that just there's too few rentals and the activity happening per month is a little bit too wonky to project. But in the 3 bedrooms, there are 67 of them out of 126 total properties available. And right now, it looks like 3 bedrooms are declining since April. If we look at 4 bedrooms, they're getting $2,700 versus the average of $23,000. What was the average for the? Let me just look at them both. All right. So 3 bedrooms, 2,100, 4 bedrooms, 2,700, with an average of all properties of 2,300. So there's a $600 a month swing between a 3 bedroom and a 4 bedroom. So that's another community that has a pretty giant swing between those two things, just as an overall percentage of rent. So that's pretty spectacular. So good options there. And then if we just look, let's go ahead and just look real quick at actual homes for sale in Odessa and see what we're seeing. Now, again, this is me just looking. I'm going to turn on my little crime heat map here and see if that can't give me a first glance at what might be the most interesting areas. That looks like an airport up at the north end of town. Is that an airport at the north end of town? Kind of looks like it. So I'm going to guess. I don't even have any clue what Odessa does. I mean, I don't know. How do people in Odessa make money? What are the industries in Odessa? Let's see. We're going to look only for 3 beds. Let's look for 3 beds minimum, 3 beds, 2 baths, right? Just to make things interesting. Okay, and I like to stay away from the darkest areas. And that's a pretty good looking house. Here's one that is just west of the 338, which is probably considered just getting out of town. That's $159,000 for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath with over 1,500 square feet. Here's one that I would guess would be kind of called the mid-east side of town, where there's just no 4 bed, 4 bath, 4,000 square feet. Holy crap, $345,000. That might be a little bit much, right? But remember what the difference was. We were seeing 4 bedrooms for $345,000. You could get yourself a 4 bedroom and be able to charge, what was it, $2,700 a month? That's pretty respectable. I mean, I'd want to do math on that to figure out what the return on investment would be, the return on money in the property. Here's a 5 bedroom for $450,000. Here's a 3 bedroom for $234,000. See, that's interesting. So I'm going to zoom in on this because this is kind of epic. That's kind of awesome. Let me see if I can find it. I think I just lost it. There were 2 right next to each other, and now I've lost them. Dag nabbit. Here's a 4 bedroom for $325,000, 3,800 square feet, and directly next to it. Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. It's a good looking house. That is actually kind of amazing. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more on this because I really want to see these 2 houses that are right next door to each other. Literally, they are overlapping each other. This looks like a plum neighborhood. All right. So for those of you who know Odessa, I'm seeing 2 homes right next door to each other. One is a 3 bedroom, 3 bath, 3,300 square foot for $399,000. And the other one is a 4 bedroom, 4 bath, 3,800 square feet for $325,000. So $75,000 less. Maybe it's older. I don't know. They look like they were built at the same time. They're literally both on the same. Yeah, they're almost right next to each other. 1601 Sandalwood Lane and 1609 Sandalwood Lane. I sure would like to know why those prices are so different. But all in here, I'm seeing, here's another 3 bedroom, $259,000. Price recently dropped. $345,000, 3 bedroom, 4 bath. Price recently dropped. $248,000, 3 bed, 3 bath. $289,000, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Down. So I'm looking at the area that is Oakwood Drive on one side, and what's the name of this other street? I can't even see what it is. There's no name on it, but I'm guessing it's 16th Street. Really good options here. I mean, these do not look like crappy houses. There is apparently no crime in these areas. They are absolutely close enough to downtown that these would likely be desirable places for rents. If we go more into downtown, yeah, I'm seeing all kinds of great prices. 180, 329, 160, all for 3 beds. What kinds are we looking at? If we just look at townhomes, what do we see? Not a dang thing. If we just look at condos, what do we see? Do they have the concept of condos? I don't even know in Texas. Well, nothing shows up when I do it that way. There we go. When I choose house, everything shows up. But nothing shows up under townhome? That seems bizarre to me. You'd think downtown they'd have some of those. Apparently not. Apparently everyone loves their single-family residential home. Okay, so there you go. I realize that's not very compelling audio for me to just sit there and hum and haw at these numbers. But I'll tell you, the reason why I like going through this stuff is do this. Crunch the numbers. We've talked in past shows about tons of different ways to process this information. And I promise you, as you get more comfortable with figuring these things out, using the data there's never been a better time to potentially be someone to invest in real estate at a distance. You can get so much done from your chair in the comforts of your office at home or your desk at home on any market in the country, and decide if it's worth it to you, if it's something that you want to consider investing in. Now, I got to admit, the last time I was interested in Texas properties was Round Rock. I still actually kind of like Round Rock. I think that I'd have to figure out what Odessa is sexy about. Why do people want to go to Odessa? It's the first time I've seen Odessa show up on any of these lists, so I'd want to find out why these expectations are what they are. Austin has a lot going for it. I've been to Austin. I know the tech that's there. I know the businesses that are there. So I feel like there's a good foundation for a long-term return on properties there. For me personally, as soon as I'm going to be ready to start investing in a new property, I'm going to be looking in Idaho and I'm going to be looking in Phoenix. I may let this list do a little dictating. I may broaden where I'm looking. Absolutely, we might take a look at Odessa just to see what's going on. But I'd want to learn why Odessa is a good place to be. Not just because it's on this list, but what are the things that happen in Odessa, Texas that make it a desirable location? All right, folks. I hope that you have gotten some good bang for the buck. As always, the goal here is to leave you with far more value on the table than you've invested in time. I like to think we've achieved that today. Looking forward to talking to you about some of the amazing things that have happened over the last week. Look for that in a future show. Again, thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll talk to y'all next time.